Welcome to episode 168 of the Fully In It podcast. Are you feeling all of the aftermath of the holidays and just the end of year hustle? Have you been able to slow down at all? You may be wondering if 2025 will be better than last year. Listen, as a fellow mom and business owner, I 100% get it. That's why in this episode, I wanted to do something special and share my process for vision setting for a new year for my family and how I use that to set goals and make plans. And the best part about all of this was, you know me at this point, probably if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, is I get an idea and I'm like, oh, but it would be so great if there was a resource to go with this. And so I created a totally free download for you. It's going to help you set a vision for your family. So let's go ahead and jump right into this episode. Welcome to the Fully In It podcast with Kate Saffel, a show for powerful moms growing life-changing businesses while showing up intentionally for their families. I teach you how to create a family-first and profitable business in less time by leveraging simple strategy, mom life-friendly systems, and above all, the mindset of going fully in it. You ready? Okay, so first things first, you're going to want to go to happierin.motherhood.com/paint the vision. That's happierin.motherhood.com/paint the vision to get your free PDF guide to setting your 2025 family vision. And once you get that signed up, you download it, then you're going to be so ready to jump into this episode with me. But before we even get into that, I wanted to offer you a little bit of an update. Now, if this is your first time listening to my podcast, hi, hello. I'm so glad you're here. I haven't recorded in a few months, and I wanted to talk about what's been going on because for those of you especially who've been in my community for a long time, you know, I got quite a few messages like, hey, Kate, when are you going to put out another episode? What's going on with the Fully In It podcast? And I'm at a point now where I'm ready to talk about it and share more. So my last episode, I think, was at the end of September 2024. And if you know anything about what was happening at that time, I was sharing on social media quite a bit. But we had 3 hurricanes in a row here in Florida. And they all happened about, maybe 5 weeks apart. And at the same time, we were unexpectedly moving to a new home. That all happened very quickly. It was such a God thing. And we were not prepared for it to happen, but we just rolled with it. And, you know, we ended up in the most beautiful house in this super family-friendly neighborhood. Such a blessing. But all of that was literally happening at the same time. And the final hurricane was Hurricane Milton, and it was set to be a pretty bad one. So we decided to evacuate and not try to hang around for it, especially with me being pregnant. They were predicting that we could be without power and water for at least a week or two. So we headed north, and we were just going to hang in Georgia for a few days and kind of wait it out and see. And then we decided to just keep driving north to get to my parents' home in Indiana. And it was a good thing that we did because there were gas shortages in Florida. There were a lot of issues post-hurricane. And it took us a good week of being up in Indiana before we were ready to come back to Florida. And even then we brought additional gas for our truck with us just in case we weren't able to find any along the route. So that was the 3rd week of October, I believe was when we returned. And then 2 days later, we picked up the keys to our new house and we started moving in. And we celebrated my 40th birthday about a week and a half later, maybe not even, I think it may have even just been a week later. And so this was just so much was happening. At the same time, I was wrapping up a big expand launch in my business that I had just put a ton of personal energy into. And I got to tell you, by the time I rolled into November, I was just beat. So I gave myself permission to just pause the podcast and take some time to breathe, to focus on getting my new home organized and unpacked as best as I could, taking care of this baby in my belly and making sure that, I'm getting the rest and the nutrition and all the things I need, and then making sure my children also adjusted to the new home. So all of that took precedence, and I know you get it, right? As a family first mama, like, we're always going to put our families first. And when it comes to content creation, I want you to always remember that that's secondary to your actual life. If your content creation is interrupting your home life, there's an imbalance happening. And it could be in a couple different ways. And, we're not going to diagnose that right now, but it's just something to be so aware of. So I wasn't really entirely sure, especially with baby coming sometime maybe in February. I wasn't really sure what the future would be of this podcast. And I had even told a few of my clients, like, I'm not sure it's going to be coming back. I just don't know. And then, of course, in true Kate fashion, I got some inspiration for some episodes, and I was like, I got to talk to my ladies, and I need to share with you. And so I think what's going to end up happening, if you're feeling flexible with me and you're willing to roll with me, I think this is what it's going to look like. You will probably see consistent episodes in January. I will most likely be gone in February and March because I just don't have the extra bandwidth to create podcast episodes ahead of time. And I know some people do that, but I'm really focusing my energy on making sure my current clients are taken care of while I'm on a maternity leave. So that would specifically be Expand Mentoring membership. I've lined up some incredible guest experts who are mom business owners who come from different knowledge areas, and they're going to be leading the weekly Expand call. They're going to be teaching, and they're going to be coaching, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm hiring an assistant coach who will be just answering all the questions and coaching the mamas in that space while I'm on my leave. So all that to say, I'm setting all of that up, and that's where I chose to put my time and energy in regard to my business instead of trying to create a ton of content ahead of time. Most likely my Instagram will just be taking a sabbatical, and you won't see me actively posting on there, maybe here and there as I feel inspired or I have the extra capacity. And then my goal is to be completely back online by the first week of May because, one, I think that that's going to be enough time for me with baby to just build our rhythms and connect and bond. Two, I know I'm going to be ready to be back by then. It's really hard for me to take business breaks. So I'm going to kind of play this one by ear. But three, I'm going to be bringing back my intimate mastermind, my high-level mastermind, and we're going to be kicking off in May. I'm going to be pre-launching that in January. So if that's something that interests you, you definitely want to send me a DM because I'm going to keep it limited to 5 spots like I've ran it in the past. But it's been like 2.5 years since I ran it, and it used to be called Micro Mastermind. You'll find some old episodes on this podcast about it, but oh my gosh, I'm so excited to bring that one back. So all that to say, that kind of gives you the rundown of what to expect. This podcast is not going to disappear. I'll definitely promise you that. And my goal is once baby and I get in a rhythm, I will bring back episodes. They will probably more likely be bi-weekly, just to give me a little bit more breathing room as I adapt to being a new mama of 5. Oh my gosh. New mama of 4 and a family of 6. Okay, so let's shift gears here a little bit and let's start talking about your family vision for 2025. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of feeling a bit relaxed today. We've been sick all of this week, and so this is going to be more of a conversation between you and I. I hope that you have your guide in front of you. Maybe you printed it off. Maybe you're looking at it on your phone. Both are wonderful and perfect options. But we're just going to kind of talk through this, and I'm going to give you some thoughts and some suggestions. And then ideally what you're going to do is take at least an hour to 90 minutes completely by yourself if you can. I know if you've got like a baby, this might be challenging, but if you're in a season where you can maybe go to a coffee shop, find a quiet space in your home, goodness gracious, you can do what I've done a lot of years, which is just go sit in your car, play some music, and give yourself permission to just dream, visualize, and think about the upcoming year. I know this time of year can be a bit tricky because we're tired. We're tired from the holidays, the school year ending. There's so much responsibility, so many tasks. And I've talked to quite a few moms who just feel they're tired. They're worn out. And so it's one of those things where you have to balance the planning forward with the rest. And I do believe that you get to have both. For me personally, I see planning and visualizing and dreaming as a form of rest. And maybe that's something that you could try on. I love like just laying in my bed or, finding a sunny spot and letting my mind wander and just start to imagine what life could look like. And I've been doing this for many, many years at this point. So my process has gotten more and more refined. But I find that I still need to do this on a yearly basis because it's inevitable that we make decisions throughout the year that is more of a default than an intentional choice. We do things that are unaligned with our values and our vision because it's easier, maybe it's more convenient, maybe it's to please another person or maintain social status. And ultimately the goal, my friend, is to become more resolute in holding a firm line with your boundaries and your vision for your family. I can tell you with an almost 14-year-old, the kids keep getting older. And the time to make these decisions is now, whether you're pregnant with your first, you have a newborn, you're like me, maybe you have teenagers. There's no better time to start thinking about your family vision than right now. So I've been personally doing this work. Like I said, we've been sick the last week and me too. So that's meant I've had a lot of time to just kind of lay around and dream and visualize. And it's been such a balm to me to direct my energy in that way. So let's go ahead and dig into this guide together. And I'm just going to talk through some pieces of it with you and offer you some encouragement as you dig in. So you're going to want to flip to the second and then to the third page where it says part 1 and you see a window with the light coming in. And I loved this visual because I was like, yes, the light, like let's have hope for this next year. Let's think bigger. And by bigger, it doesn't always have to mean like better. It just means opening yourself up to more expansive possibilities for yourself and your family. Right? How often do you limit yourself? How often do you tell yourself to be happy with just enough or where you're currently at? But at the same time, do you feel that tension of like, you look on social media and there's so many examples of what the dream life could be like. There's so many temptations of things that you could buy and implement in your home. And at the end of the day, what's most important is that however you spend your time, your energy, and your resources, that it actually aligns with your values. That's all that matters. So in part 1, what you're going to be doing is you're going to do a bit of a year review. And this is one of my favorite ways to get a clear picture because we tend to forget, right? So much happens in one year. And so what I recommend that you do is you go to your camera roll on your phone. If you're anything like me, you take a ton of photos, which is totally on my to-do list to clean up, and go to January 2024. You're going to take some time, maybe 20, 30 minutes, and I just want you to very intentionally scroll through your photos. As you do this, you're going to be looking at the questions here on the list, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about why I chose these questions for you. So the key thing about each of these questions is that they're going to direct you so that you have more clarity around what matters most to you going forward, what you're ready to let go of, and where you want to invest your time and energy and resources in 2025. You're going to be looking for the key lessons that you've learned, because part of getting older is hopefully getting wiser, and we don't keep repeating the same mistakes that we made last year into the next year. You want to learn from what happened. So really pay attention as you're going through your camera roll to see, I remember back in May, we were so stressed and we had way too much going on. I overcommitted us and it was the end of the school year and I was just dragging going into June, right? Like those are the kind of things you want to look for. At the same time, don't hesitate to really celebrate and savor the good things that happened, because we want ideally to create more of that in 2025. Then in part 2, you're going to take all those answers from the first section and you're going to use them to form a vision for your family. And this is so crucial because if you don't have a vision, you don't have a plan. Just plain and simple. And if you don't have a plan, you're spending your time, your energy, and resources very unintentionally. You're going through the motions, and you might be just wasting your resources when, in fact, if you allowed these lessons to come forward, you really prioritized your values, I think your experience of your home life, your family life will be so much richer because of it. And I want to make one quick note. We're not talking about business here. I know it's very likely you're an entrepreneur if you're listening to my podcast. That's a whole other conversation I just intentionally decided not to include in this podcast episode and instead just focus on family. But you really do want to spend some time reviewing your business over the last year and get clear on what worked well, what didn't work well, and what you're going to do differently in this next year, because that is going to help you increase your income and do it in a way that actually feels good for you. You're going to keep making smart CEO decisions as you move forward into the new year. So again, going back to part 2, this is going to help you to put together that vision. And I really cannot wait to hear what comes forward for you, what you uncover in this process. I think that there is so much wisdom and gold to be had by sitting with ourselves. And isn't it so hard to do that anymore? Because our phones are so tempting. There's always stuff to do. So make sure that when you do this guide that you perhaps turn all the notifications off on your phone. You make sure you create a bit of a sanctuary for yourself so that you're not distracted by what the latest person is saying on Threads or posts on Instagram or email notifications. We get enough of that on our daily basis. You get to take some time for you to create a vision. And now creating the vision, right, is just part of the process of what you're going to want to do for 2025. Once you have your vision, it's time to take that bird's eye view and distill it down into a game plan. Your game plan will include what your daily rhythms and routines will look like. So this is how you are going to spend and manage your time daily, how you're going to allocate it to your home, to yourself, your family, and your business. It's also going to include your systems that you either already have or that you need to implement so that you feel most supported, accomplishing your goals and your dreams for your family and your business in 2025. No woman can just do it completely alone, right? We all benefit from having support, having a plan, and having strategies in place so you don't feel like each day you're waking up and you're recreating the wheel. So I really strongly encourage you to think through what needs to adjust this year. I know for me, one of the things I'm going to be doing in January is I'm going to be setting a new daily rhythm with my kids, my 3 kids. And my goal with this is to get them acclimated to a new routine, or slightly new routine, that will set us up for success when baby gets here. Because I'm kind of, I'm anticipating, I'm like, okay, I have a general idea like when babies typically nap and when they sleep, and what our bedtime routine is going to need to look like, and what our homeschooling is going to need to shift into, and all of that. And so I thought, wouldn't this be such a nice gift to myself if I spent 30 days just getting my kids on board with a new routine, so that when baby comes, I'm not trying to implement a new routine and, adjust to being a new mama again. So that's just one example of how, for me personally, I'm planning ahead, and I want you to think of some examples in your own life. Above all, just know I'm always here to support you with these things. I love having these conversations. If you've been in my community since the very beginning, which would be 2018 was when I started this podcast, I got certified as a Simplicity Parenting Family Life Coach, so that I would have the tools to help moms like you simplify, to set your daily rhythms and routines, to, prioritize and say no to more, and really create the family culture, the values, and the vision that makes the most sense to you. Now, over the years, I have pivoted a bit, right? And I offer primarily business coaching now, but it's always from this family first lens, because there's no point in us doing business if it doesn't support the family life you dream of. So I hope that this encourages you, and that you set the vision for 2025. And then please feel free to DM me on Instagram at happierin.motherhood, or you can send me an email, hello@happierin.motherhood.com. I would love to hear from you. And that's it for this episode. I am sending you so much love. Thank you for listening. And I'm just wishing you and your family all the very best in the new year. I will see you on the next episode.